In Chicago, power changes hands faster than bullets hit the pavement. The city never sleeps, it only watches, waiting for the next king to rise and the next brother to fall. Everyone talks about the street wars, the drugs, the money, but what they don't see are the shadows behind the CBI coalition, the whispers, the lies, and the hidden enemies who move in silence, ready to turn friends into targets. Chicago isn't just a city. It's a battlefield built on broken loyalty and cold ambition. Every corner tells a story, every alley hides a deal, and every handshake could be the start of a war. Long before Tommy Egan arrived, the CBI, the Chicago Brothers Incorporated, ruled these blocks with a code: respect, loyalty, and fear. Diamond Sampson carried that code like a badge of honor. After years behind bars, he came back to the streets with a clear mind and a plan to rebuild CBI into something more than just another gang. He wanted structure, discipline, and a way to turn the chaos of the South Side into an empire. But power doesn't rest easy in Chicago. The moment CBI started to rise again, the streets began to buzz. Old rivals watched, new hustlers moved in, and inside CBI itself, cracks started to show. Jenard Sampson, Diamond's own brother, had a different vision. He wasn't looking to build slow and steady, he wanted the throne now. Jenard had tasted power while Diamond was locked up, and giving it back wasn't part of his plan. That's when the silent war inside the coalition began, a war not of bullets, but of pride. Chicago's underworld runs on ego, and ego kills more men than guns ever could. Jenard began surrounding himself with soldiers loyal only to him, whispering that Diamond had gone soft, that his time in prison made him weak. Meanwhile, Diamond kept preaching peace, trying to build alliances and avoid bloodshed. But peace in this city, it's like trying to hold smoke in your hands. The more you try to keep it together, the faster it slips through your fingers. The streets noticed the tension, the dealers could feel it. Every move Diamond made was questioned, every order Jenard gave carried a hint of rebellion. On the surface, CBI looked strong, but inside, the foundation was shaking. The brothers were on a collision course, and everyone could see it coming, except them. What made it worse was the city's new player, Tommy Egan, a man who had nothing to lose and everything to gain. His arrival wasn't just another story, it was the spark that turned quiet tension into open war. Chicago breeds survivors, not saints. And when survival is the only rule, loyalty becomes just another word people use before they pull the trigger. As the CBI tried to hold its ground, it wasn't the cops or rival gangs that posed the biggest threat. It was the betrayal growing inside their own circle, unseen, unheard, but deadly. Because in Chicago, your worst enemy is often the one who calls you brother. When Tommy Egan rolled into Chicago, he wasn't looking for peace, he was chasing power. A ghost from New York, carrying blood on his hands and fire in his heart, Tommy came to a city already on edge. Chicago didn't know what to do with him at first. He wasn't born here, didn't grow up here, didn't answer to anyone. But that's exactly what made him dangerous. He wasn't tied down by loyalty or history. He didn't owe anyone anything. And in a city like Chicago, that kind of man can burn everything to the ground. Tommy didn't walk in trying to blend with the streets, he came in like a storm, moving through the city with the calm of a man who had already faced death and didn't care to meet it again. The thing about Tommy is, he's not just muscle, he's strategy with a wild edge. When he looked at Chicago, he didn't see chaos, he saw opportunity. He saw a city divided between old loyalties and new greed, a city where everyone wanted to be king. But no one could hold the crown. From the moment he met Diamond, Tommy saw something, a man with leadership, discipline, and control. Diamond saw the same in Tommy, but what he didn't see was how dangerous that reflection could be. Tommy offered partnership, but his kind of partnership always came with a silent question: how long before I take it all? And that's what made Jenard uneasy. He could smell the ambition on Tommy, like gunpowder before the shot. Jenard had built his power through fear and street loyalty. But Tommy didn't play by those rules. He didn't ask for permission, didn't wait for trust. He earned it by doing what others wouldn't, cutting through enemies, handling business fast, no hesitation. The streets began to whisper again. But this time, not about Diamond or Jenard, about the white boy from New York who was outmaneuvering them in their own city. Every move Tommy made was like a chess piece landing in the perfect spot. He started connecting dots between rival crews, flipping product, controlling corners that didn't even belong to him a week earlier. The city started bending toward him not because of his name, but because of his fearlessness. He wasn't afraid to take losses, because he'd already lost everything that mattered back home. Chicago became his fresh start, his second war zone, And yet, beneath the surface, Tommy wasn't just fighting for money or control. He was fighting ghosts, the ghosts of loyalty betrayed, of friends buried, of family lost. That kind of pain fuels a man in ways ambition never could. He understood betrayal like it was a language, and that made him the perfect player in a city where everyone speaks in half-truths and gunshots. But with every gain Tommy made, the CBI brothers drifted further apart. Diamond trusted him, saw in him a chance to expand beyond the old ways. But Jenard saw something else, a thief, a manipulator, a ticking bomb wrapped in loyalty. He began feeding his people the idea that Tommy was using them, that he was the reason CBI was slipping into chaos. And in some ways, Jenard wasn't wrong. Tommy doesn't destroy people directly, he lets them destroy themselves trying to outsmart him. The deeper Tommy went, the more the streets began to shift. His moves forced everyone to choose, either align with him or risk becoming irrelevant. Rivals who once hunted each other now sat at the same table, but only because Tommy told them to. His power wasn't just in violence, it was in control, in how he could make men listen without saying a word. But every empire has its breaking point, and for CBI that point was getting closer. Because when a new power enters the game, the old ones don't fade quietly. Jenard's patience snapped. His ego couldn't stand the idea of sharing control, not with Diamond, and definitely not with an outsider. So he began making his own moves, secret deals, silent alliances, and plans to take Tommy down before he could rise to high. What Jenard didn't know was that Tommy had already seen it coming. You don't survive New York's streets without knowing how to smell betrayal from miles away. Now, Chicago stands divided, half loyal to Diamond's peace, half to Jenard's rebellion, and somewhere in the middle stands Tommy Egan, the storm everyone thought they could control. But the truth is, Tommy doesn't follow the weather. He is the weather, and when he moves, the city shakes. In the world of Chicago's underbelly, bullets aren't what kill empires, secrets do. And inside CBI, those secrets had begun to multiply like cracks in glass. On the surface, the coalition looked powerful: Diamond, Jenard, and Tommy, holding down their corners, moving weight, making money, and keeping the streets quiet enough for business. But under that calm, something darker was moving. Betrayal doesn't walk through the front door, it seeps through whispers, late-night calls, and deals made in the back rooms of bars, where loyalty doesn't exist. Diamond believed he could hold his family together with honor. He thought respect could fix what greed had already broken. But respect means nothing when money's on the line, and Jenard was already carving out his own shadow empire. He was done being the little brother, done taking orders. His moves weren't loud, they were surgical. Quiet meetings with street soldiers, secret shipments moved under new names, coded words passed in conversations that meant nothing to outsiders but everything to those in the game. The streets started noticing strange things. Corners that used to belong to CBI suddenly ran dry, shipments delayed, product disappearing. Diamond blamed outside threats, maybe a rival crew, but Tommy wasn't fooled. He'd seen this pattern before in New York, when someone close starts eating from the same plate but acting like they're starving. And he knew that someone inside CBI was feeding information to the streets. Tommy's instincts kicked in. He started watching everyone who showed up early, who left meetings first, who avoided eye contact when plans were being discussed. In a city full of killers, the most dangerous man is the one who listens more than he speaks. Tommy didn't need proof. He needed confirmation. And Chicago, being the talkative beast it is, always finds a way to speak when it's bleeding. Meanwhile, Jenard's paranoia was growing. He thought Tommy was planning to take CBI for himself, to replace Diamond and run the streets solo. The truth, Tommy didn't want CBI, he wanted control of the city's flow, the power to make every player answer to him, not a crew. But in Jenard's mind, that made him the enemy. So he started turning Diamond's men, offering them extra cuts, promises of freedom, or just protection when things went south. Slowly, the walls around Diamond began to close. And the CBI, he rebuilt with sweat and blood, was now being hollowed out from the inside. Chicago has a way of showing you who's real, not through words, but through silence. The men who used to laugh at Diamond's jokes now stayed quiet. The room that once echoed with loyalty started to feel cold. It wasn't just business anymore. It was personal. Diamond could feel the shift. That heavy pressure that tells a man his house is burning but no one's calling the fire department. Tommy, always 3 steps ahead, began setting traps, small tests of loyalty that would expose the mole. He'd leak fake info about a deal and watch who showed up. He'd send false coordinates and count the faces that followed. Slowly, a pattern emerged. Someone close to Jenard was double-dipping, working both sides, feeding intel to a rival crew while pretending to stay loyal to CBI. It wasn't just betrayal, it was treason. The revelation hit like a gunshot. The coalition wasn't fighting outsiders anymore, it was bleeding from within. And when an empire starts bleeding, the predators come. Rivals smelled weakness in the air, the Serbs, the Flynn family, even the small-time dealers saw an opening. Chicago doesn't wait for you to heal. It eats you alive while you're still bleeding. Jenard's pride pushed him further down the path of no return. He called secret meetings, started plotting a takeover, believing he could outthink both Diamond and Tommy. But what he didn't realize was that Tommy thrives in chaos. He is the chaos. Every move Jenard made was part of Tommy's bigger picture. A slow unraveling of the coalition until only the strongest could stand. And in Tommy's world, strength isn't about muscle, it's about nerve. Who can pull the trigger without blinking? Who can burn the bridge and never look back? Now, CBI wasn't a brotherhood anymore. It was a ticking time bomb wrapped in loyalty and lies. The meetings were colder, the handshakes tighter, and the silences longer. Diamond could sense it, his brother slipping away, the men shifting their allegiance, the storm rising, but it was too late to stop it, because in Chicago, the streets never forget weakness. And when your own family starts looking at you like a stranger, you're already a ghost walking. The hidden enemies weren't outsiders. They were brothers, soldiers, partners, the ones who once said, "I got you," before pulling the rug out from under your feet. CBI wasn't just losing control, it was turning on itself. And as the pieces started to fall, Tommy watched from the shadows. Knowing the truth, every gangster learns too late. In this game, loyalty is just a loan, and betrayal is the interest you pay. Chicago has a strange way of going quiet right before it explodes. The corners fall silent, cars move slower, and even the air feels heavier, like the city itself knows something is about to break. That's where CBI found itself now, at the edge of its own destruction. The brotherhood that once controlled entire blocks was now a collection of whispers, suspicion, and unspoken threats. And when loyalty dies, all that's left to hold power together is fear. Diamond could feel the walls closing in. The streets that once shouted his name now watched him with cold eyes. His own soldiers were moving differently, late to meetings, dodging calls, half-hearted with orders. The sense of unity that built CBI had been replaced with survival instinct. Everyone wanted to live long enough to see who would take over next. Diamond had fought hard to build something solid, something that could outlast the cycle of blood and revenge. But the thing about Chicago is, it doesn't care about dreams. It only respects force. Jenard, on the other hand, had lost himself to the hunger. The same ambition that once drove him now blinded him. He'd convinced himself that Diamond and Tommy were the reason CBI was falling apart. That the only way to save the organization was to burn it down and rebuild it his way. His paranoia had turned into strategy. He started reaching out to rival gangs, promising them a cut of CBI territory in exchange for support. To him, it wasn't betrayal, it was survival. But in the streets, that kind of deal is suicide wrapped in confidence. Tommy saw it all coming like a man who'd lived this story 100 times before. He wasn't surprised, just calculating. Every betrayal, every double cross, every silent deal Jenard made only brought Tommy closer to his real goal, control of Chicago's entire network. While Diamond and Jenard were busy tearing each other apart, Tommy was moving in silence, picking up the pieces they were too blind to protect. Corners, soldiers, suppliers, all started shifting toward him. He didn't have to take power. They handed it to him, one bad decision at a time. But even Tommy knew there's a price to every victory. You can't rise in Chicago without drawing blood, and this time, it was going to be family blood. The streets began to stir, restless with the promise of war. Word spread fast. A split inside CBI, two brothers on opposite sides. One city about to burn. Guns started reappearing. Corners that had been quiet for months turned violent overnight. No one cared who started it, everyone just wanted to survive it. The first body dropped on a cold Friday night, one of Jenard's closest men. Found in an alley with CBI tags still on his chain. That was the signal. Retaliation came the next day. Then another. Chicago lit up like it was the 4th of July. Only the fireworks were bullets. Every corner became a battlefield. Every deal a setup. Every handshake a gamble. The coalition wasn't just breaking, it was bleeding out in real time. Diamond tried to pull it back. To reason with his brother, to remind him that blood means more than business. But Jenard wasn't listening. He'd crossed the line where pride replaces reason. And once a man crosses that line, you can't pull him back, you can only watch him fall. Their confrontation wasn't loud. It was quiet, painful. Two brothers in the same room, years of love buried under hate. No guns drawn. Just eyes locked, each one realizing they'd already lost the war the moment they turned on each other. Meanwhile, Tommy made his final play. He wasn't going to pick sides. He was going to end them both. To him, the CBI was never a family, it was a means to an end. And that end was Chicago itself. The chaos created the perfect opening. While everyone was distracted, Tommy took over key operations, the ports, the routes, the connections. When the smoke cleared, he didn't just survive the war, he owned it. The fall of CBI wasn't a gunshot, it was a slow collapse. Betrayal after betrayal, lie after lie, until nothing was left but the memory of what once was. The name CBI became a ghost in the streets, a warning whispered in corners. Don't build with brothers if you don't trust their hunger. In the end, the city went quiet again. The same kind of quiet that comes after the storm, not peace, just exhaustion. Tommy stood over what was left of CBI, not proud, not regretful, just aware. He knew this was the cycle. Today it's CBI, tomorrow, it'll be someone else. Because Chicago doesn't stop. It just changes King's Dot as the lights flickered over the skyline. The wind carried the faint echo of the past. Diamond's dream, Jenard's ambition, Tommy's rise, all swallowed by the same streets that created them. In this city, power isn't about who wins. It's about who's left standing when the smoke clears. And in Season 3, that's the truth that every man in Chicago will have to face. In the game of power, the streets don't remember heroes, only survivors.